I'm really sorry to inform you that you have not been shortlisted for further interview process because you have career gap. Have you ever heard someone give this feedback to you after an interview process? Most likely no. And in some very rare exceptional cases where you find somebody giving this feedback directly to you, then I'm here to tell you that it's given with a very different context that you are not aware of, and it has nothing to do with your career gap as such. We'll learn that context as well in this video, but before that, take a look at this comment. These kind of comments, messages are very common on my channel, on my Instagram. I find tons of messages more or less talking about the same thing. Now, I can't say much about the later part of the comment, but for the first part, I would like to say that you're holding on to a very wrong perception. But does that mean that finding a job after a career gap will be extremely easy? Absolutely no. Is it impossible? Not at all. I am a living proof for you to know that career post a career gap is very much possible. I have taken 2 major career gaps in my entire career, and my second gap was more than 2 years because it was for maternity, and I started back again. So you can really trust upon the actionable steps that I'm going to discuss now. Pay really close attention and try to understand each and every bit of it, because this shift in your perception and these actions can really bring so much success to your career journey. So on that note, let's get started. The number one actionable step that you have to take, and the most fundamental thing, if you do not do this, next steps will be wastage of your time, and that is that you should not be guilty for taking that career gap. Most of the people I've spoken to will say that yes, I have the confidence, I feel I'm worth of the opportunity that I'm applying for, but deep inside they are very hollow. They are very hollow, and they till date feel guilty for taking that career gap. See, if you're guilty deep down for taking that career gap, then you'll never be able to convince the other person, the interviewer, the companies, the employers, that you are confident about your skills and you're confident with what you're doing with your life. Honestly, nobody wants to take career gap, but you took it because it was important at that very point. You felt this is the right thing to do. Maybe somebody was not well in your family. Maybe you yourself was not in a position to work anywhere. Maybe you were preparing for some examinations. It's totally fine as long as you do not feel that you have done something wrong taking that career gap. And you should be confident enough that your skills are so valuable that they can bring some ROI to the person who hires you, to the company who hires you. And you'll be only able to reflect this confidence in the interview when your mind is clear and you're not guilty of anything. And this thought process should be so strong in your head that even after hundreds of rejections by companies, by friends, family, it does not go anywhere. Because that's the real test. When you face rejection and you come back to that feeling that, oh, I'm not worth enough, or I've done this mistake of taking this career gap. No, you do not have to do this. You did not do any mistake. Do not indulge into guilty game. And the real test is when you face rejection, but still you are headstrong that I did not do any wrong. Eventually, I'll land in a job because I have the skills, I'm worth, I'm valuable. Step number 2. When you start on this journey of finding a job after career gap, make sure that your skill set, the level of your skills should be similar to where you left. If not more, it should be at least same what it was before those 2 years, 3 years or 4 years. It should be same. When you speak in interview, your concept should be so fresh where you last left that the person interviewing you should never feel that you took a gap. So you have to make sure that you bridge that gap, that time gap, by leveling up your skills to the level where you left. So rather than giving a negative self-talk to yourself that this is not possible, that is not possible, invest that time into upskilling yourself, because there are so many things that are not in our control. So we must do things which are in our control, and upskilling ourselves is one such thing for sure. Next step, when you create your resume after a career gap, do not mention about your gap on the resume. Resume is to showcase your abilities which are in line with the position where you are applying, and gap is not in line with the opportunity or what they are seeking for. So mentioning the gap upfront serves you no purpose. Rather, try to highlight whatever you have got. The resume should look like as if there was no gap and you are so fresh with your concepts, and it should look so neat and crisp in line with what the job opportunity is, that the person looking at it must feel that it is an immediate match to the job description. Now, moving on to the next point, it is do not blame anything on your gap. See, when you do not know an answer in the interview, do not try to say that it's been a while, I have not worked on this technology, or this concept is not fresh in my mind because I worked on it 4 years back. Think yourself, if you say sentences like this, what you are projecting? You're trying to leverage on your gap. You're trying to say that please excuse me because I have gap, so I cannot answer this question clearly. See, you cannot know 100% of the things in the interview. People who do not have career gap also face difficulty answering all the questions 100%. So it's okay if you do not know the answer, but never blame not knowing the answer on your career gap. It is very negative thing and for sure will lead you to rejection. Rather, you can just say that, yeah, I see this concept, this technology taking up speed in the market. I am aware about it and I'm working on upscaling myself on this particular technology and I've come so far. Then you can then start describing few things here and there about that thing, just to indicate that you're putting efforts on learning it. You're on the way. If not already there, you're on the way. Moving on to our next point, which is try to start on the same profile. See, it's always relatively easier to start back on the similar or same profile on which you left before the career gap. Because if you try to find job into new profile, you will have to start fresh. And it is true even for people who do not have a career gap. They also find it equally difficult to switch profiles. So if you have a gap and you try to start in a very different profile, then I'm not saying that it's not possible. It's definitely possible. But then be prepared with that mindset that it's going to be challenging, because it's anyway challenging. It's not particularly difficult for people with career gaps. It's challenging equally for everybody. And if you want to avoid those challenges, extra hurdles, try to start on the similar profile. And yes, if it is a similar profile, your experience before career gap will be considered when you are interviewing with a company. It will be considered for sure. Moving on to our next point, which is what to answer when questioned about gap. Guys, I've said this many times on this channel and I'm repeating it again as a HR also, and otherwise as a candidate also who has done it twice after a career gap. Please be honest with the reason as much as you can. I know sometimes there can be personal situations where you cannot reveal 100% of the scenario, but how much ever is possible, try to be honest with your reasons. If you try to fake the reasons, one, it will clearly show to the interviewer that you're trying to fake it. It feels as if you're not serious enough. You're not a genuine person to be trusted upon. And it's okay, whatever your reason may be, please speak your truth. It's always better. Now moving on to the last point, which is my personal favorite suggestion that I want to give you guys, because it has worked for me. It has helped me twice in my career to land in a job, and it is knowing that rejections in interviews do not happen basis your gap. It happens purely basis lack of your skill set. I can prove you this. Now look at this question on the screen, and please guys, try to answer this as honestly as possible. When there are two candidates whom you interviewed both of them. One was tremendously good at her skills, was able to answer most of the question, made sense and was in alignment with what you are seeking. But the person has a career gap, maybe say for example 4 years. Now the second candidate, that candidate is pretty average. In every question that you ask, he was neither too bad, was neither too good, but he does not have a career gap at all. Rather, he has a notice period of 2 months or 3 months if you offer him. Now please honestly tell me that which candidate you will pick. The candidate with the career gap, who's really good and also do not have any notice period, can join immediately. On the other hand, there is a candidate who's not that great but do not have any career gap. Tell me your honest answer. Which candidate will you hire? I really hope that you got the answer yourself. And as I said in the starting of the video, if somebody has given you this feedback that you are rejected because of the gap, it's solely because of the lack of skill set. Because the candidate do not perform good in the interview, the interviewer takes a look at the resume and thinks that, because the candidate has gap, maybe that's why he's not performing well in the interview. And the interviewer blames it on the gap, or I should say, he or she assumes that you're not performing well because you have career gap. So while conveying the feedback, they might say that you have a career gap, that's why we are not able to hire you. Believe me, if you have skill set at par with what is required, you'll never be rejected because of your career gap. So guys, these were few things that has helped me start my career twice after a career gap, and I really hope these things help you also. Try to understand the message, the whole vibe of the video. If there are things which do not work for you, that's totally fine, but my intention with this video is to let you know that to start career after a career gap, it's not impossible. It's difficult, yes, but it's difficult for regular people also who do not have a career gap. When they try to switch a job, for them also it takes few months and sometimes years also, because they are not able to find job. They face rejections, but they do not blame it on anything, because they do not have a career gap, and you have career gap, so you blame everything on the career gap. Do not do that. Invest time on upskilling yourself, and very soon you will see that you will land in a job that you desire. So that's it for this video, guys. I really hope you derived some value out of it, and if you still have queries regarding this topic, you can mention them in the comment section. I'll try to answer them to the best of my abilities. You keep on watching more content on the Corporate Diaries. I'll see you in my next video. Till then, stay safe and healthy. Take care. Bye.